maybe if I put this on YouTube, I'm gonna explain what's going on here right now. Capcom announced Dan is gonna get released February. I'm gonna assume right after Capcom Cup. Okay, so February 21st, I guess. So this is not like, this is well within what Capcom has originally stated, right? So this is the article on Event Hubs about it. You can read it up if you're interested. But what I'm interested in is the community reaction to it, because like this is classic like Sykes. Like this guy is amazing. Like this guy has a YouTube channel that is bigger than Maximilian Dude, right? And it's like the biggest Capcom shill ever. But this is also a good thing because it's like one extreme perspective for our community, and I'm really happy to have him offer his opinion, because in a lot of cases, because it's actually hit and miss, I feel. In a lot of cases, defending Capcom is a reasonable thing to do. I don't think in this case it is, though. And the argument should not be Capcom has stated winter 2020 and they're going to release in February of 2021, which is technically in winter of 2020. He's correct about that. Capcom has not changed anything about the roadmap so far. They're actually releasing on time. The problem is, well, it's something that I said right here on Event Hubs, right? So February 2021 is within winter of 2020, but it still makes me wonder why they chose this wording when they clearly didn't have plans to release content this year. I feel like they really want to make the roadmap look better by making it look like the new content is coming in 2020. I appreciate the improved communication, but this is still disappointing because it looks to me like Capcom is still baiting their fans. The summer update was an announcement instead of an update, and this was really misleading because the year prior to the summer update included 3 new characters. Like seriously, Capcom needs to dial down the clickbait. It's almost as bad as my YouTube titles. I think this kind of sums it up perfectly. The way Capcom is handling this is very self-aware, choosing the same titles as last year with summer update and then delivering an announcement, which is misleading, but technically still a summer update because they're updating us on the situation, right? And this is just misleading. It makes you think, and on top of that, they actually baited streamers like myself to join a program to restream the summer update. They made it seem like there was like this big content release that is about to happen, right? And this is simply misleading. Like there's no other word to say it. Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. Oh, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're wondering about my eyes, it's a side effect of the meds that I'm taking against or for my skin condition. Don't worry about it. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not taking drugs. Okay, that's not the reason why my eyes look like that. Okay, got that out of the way. Let's move on. Anyways, I just feel like Capcom is misleading the Street Fighter community, and they're misleading us because they know they can't have a summer update announcing content for 2021. So they purposely phrase it in a way that makes it seem like there's content on the way by labeling it as winter 2020. And this is something that could have been avoided. This is simply something that could have been avoided. If Capcom wants to be more transparent, I'm happy they're actually communicating. It's actually a step up if you consider that, if you think about that. No Dan this year, and this is something I've even tweeted about. I've tweeted about a couple of weeks ago. I've tweeted, hey, I just realized winter 2020 does not necessarily mean we're gonna get content this year. And it's really something, like I had to Google what winter 2020 means. Anyways, it gets your hopes up, you know? And that's something that's kind of bad when Capcom announces an announcement and the information in the announcement is misleading. Now, like, here's the thing. Capcom simply doesn't have a proper plan. Here's what I think is happening right now within Capcom. Capcom is focused on developing Street Fighter 6. They're not focused on developing Street Fighter 5 at the moment. They don't have a proper team for that. And any content that is being delivered right now is actually just to maintain, like, to make up for the fact that Capcom can't release Street Fighter 6 right now. Supposedly, this is a rumor, so let's treat it as a rumor, but supposedly Street Fighter 6 was gonna happen in 2021. That was the original plan, okay? And because Street Fighter 6 is not ready yet and it was disappointing, and Ono supposedly had to leave because of it, because of that, they kind of have to like get some time before they can release Street Fighter 6, right? So if content was considered, like imagine if 2021 was actually the release date of Street Fighter 6. They could have easily announced Street Fighter 6 this year, right? They could have announced Street Fighter 6 this year and no content would not have been a problem. All they had to do was give us a balance patch after Capcom Cup, and or maybe not even that. I mean, think about it this way. Why would you even need a balance patch if you're going to release, if the next Capcom Cup might already have Street Fighter 6? You don't even need that. The community would have been fine playing the current version of the game for one more year and then move on to Street Fighter 6. It would have been a similar situation that we had with Ultra Street Fighter 4, right? And that makes perfect sense, but since they had to delay Street Fighter 6, this, like, the roadmap is so far stretched on top of that, it just doesn't look like something they had planned for a long time. And the fact that they didn't have any footage regarding all of the characters, like only Dan, and Dan was very early stage footage, right? Really shows they did not have any plans for this. So yeah, this is something that that we have to think about. But yeah, I think Capcom is doing okay in general. I'm happy we know a proper date for Capcom Cup and Dan right now, but they need to do better when it comes to the clickbait. You know, they're clickbaiting, and then they have people like Sykes that can be like, hey, this wasn't misleading at all. You need to educate yourself about what Winter 2020 means. No, it was misleading, and it was purposely done so. They could have easily said early 2021, or even better than that, why not just put it in quarters, like the actual documentation that like Capcom uses when it comes to, well, anything business related. Everything business related is usually released in terms of like quarters, right? So quarter 1, quarter 2, 3, or 4 of any given year, and then people know exactly the time frame. Why not just put Q1 like in the roadmap? Why didn't they do Q1 2021 instead? That would have been way better. But they couldn't do that because they didn't want to disappoint the fans. This is kind of ironic, right? They didn't want to disappoint the fans, so they gave us hope just to crush that hope in December when they released the actual plan. And this is not that bad of a strategy, you know? Like, it's like, I really feel, sometimes I feel like we're like, this is like we're in an abusive relationship with Capcom, you know? Like, it's like there's domestic violence going on, and after like a bad incident happens, we're considering to leave, but then like there's an apology and like there's this really weird situation where I feel like Capcom is trying to find this line of how far can they mess with the community without breaking us, and there's something bad about it. There's something corporate about it, because this is obviously planned, you know? It's not a coincidence that they chose to do Winter of 2020. And that's what, in my opinion, feels so bad about it. Capcom is a big company. I don't understand why they have these issues. Nintendo clearly showed you can create a casual fighting game and have it competitive with each gameplay for casuals. I'm done, man, for real. I feel like I wasted my life playing fighting games. You can't complain, like, you can't compare Smash Brothers or Nintendo to Capcom. They're not playing on the same level. Nintendo is a much bigger company with many more IPs behind them. You can't expect Smash, like, you can't compare Smash and Street Fighter. You just can't do that. And in my opinion, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you take a look at what currently is happening with Nintendo, then I don't see how Nintendo is doing particularly well when it comes to the competitive side of their fighting games. They're not doing well at all. And when I say they're not doing well, is the community does not have a positive outlook to the company, right? Why do you hate SF5 though? SF5 is not a bad product at this point. Like, it's really not a bad product at all. It's just that it kind of feels bad we're not getting any content at the moment, and the communication is a bit shady, you know? It's better. It's actually better now. Consider, like, I think, like, I should do a separate video on this, I think. I should have a really concise version of this, but here's what I think happened in the last couple of years. When SF5 got released and it was not regarded as a good game at all, and it had so many issues, I think Capcom very early pulled the plug on the game. And when I say pull the plug, I mean Season 2. I think Season 2 was when Capcom decided it's not worth putting out some of the fan favorites into this game, but instead we should have, they're gonna release brand new characters instead and wait for the next Street Fighter game to create some hype. I think there is a good reason why we didn't get Fei Long and a couple of others into Street Fighter 5, even though Capcom definitely had the space for it, right? Why not release some fan favorites into your next generation fighting game if it's supposed to be like your top dog, right? So I think what happened is they gave up early, and Season 2 is exactly why it was so weird. It was so weird to me that when we all had doubts about Street Fighter 5, instead of getting the characters that people were asking for, we got brand new characters only for that season. That was such a weird decision to me at the time, but nowadays I think it makes sense. They just want to hold back because they want to have those characters in Street Fighter 6 instead. I think this is where Capcom made the decision. But yeah, anyways, I still think it's better than what we had before Ono left. I think the communication in all the years prior were even worse than what we have right now. At least we knew for a long time now what was going to happen within the next 2 years, right? We didn't have the exact time frame, but let's be honest, at least we're getting a feeling for, like, we kind of know what to expect, okay? I'll take that any day over like having no communication whatsoever, and then like that was EVO 2019, right? And then getting 3 characters at once, right? I think that was just horrible. I think that was really bad. Yeah, but you can't put Garuda in 5. You can't have a balance update if you're not gonna have Capcom Cup. How is Capcom Cup supposed to work? Are they gonna just have Capcom Cup with the new version? That makes no sense, you know? Yeah, like February, but guys, in 2 months. In 2 months, we're gonna have Capcom Cup. It's not a long time frame at all. And Shujin, if it makes you feel any better, I think the future is bright. I'm truly optimistic about the future. I think Street Fighter 5 was like a rough game for the series. But if you think about it this way, Capcom has a habit of releasing a shitty version of Street Fighter and then a beloved one right after that. Or to put it more precise, I think they release a commercially... it's hard to say that, but you know what I mean. Like take a look at this. Think about it this way. The Street Fighter 1, most people don't know even Street Fighter 1 existed, right? The people the version that people know about for the most part is Street Fighter 2. That's the game that people consider the first Street Fighter game, right? So Street Fighter 1 basically didn't happen. Then Street Fighter 2 was a big success. Then we had Street Fighter 3, which was not a big success. It's still a beloved game from a community standpoint, but it was not a success for Capcom, right? So then we had Street Fighter 4, which was a massive success for Capcom. And now we're at Street Fighter 5 with, well, not so much of a success, right? It's selling, but still, there's like a lot of issues. Remember Alpha? Yeah, I'm talking about like the numbered titles, okay? So logically, I hope so. Logically, Street Fighter 6 is going to be good. What do you think would happen if Street Fighter 6 netcode is trash too? It's hard to say. It's actually really hard to say. I think the netcode will always be trash. I think the netcode will always be trash simply because most players are on Wi-Fi. As long as that's the case, as long as, for the most part, your game is on Wi-Fi, you're not going to have a pleasant experience anyways. So I think people will be pissed off about the online, whether it's good or bad, because the most vocal people are going to be the people that are the 99% of casual players that are playing. I don't even think that Capcom is prioritizing Resident Evil or other IPs. Capcom doesn't have that many IPs. And yes, Resident Evil brings in more, or is more successful than Street Fighter. It's like, Street Fighter is not that far off. Street Fighter is a very important IP to Capcom, and it's the only IP that you can market for the esports scene. It actually has the biggest potential. That autistic snob, there's a lot of discussion about why Street Fighter V has netcode issues, and supposedly one of the big factors is cross-platform capabilities. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite supposedly has the same netcode as Street Fighter V, just a slightly altered one, apparently. I mean, this is just speculation right there, but supposedly Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite runs on a very, very similar code that Street Fighter V, and that one went fine for some reason. Right? I still don't think it's the actual netcode, it's the online infrastructure around the netcode that causes issues. But that's just my opinion, you know? Anyways, I think that'll be it. Rambled on long enough. Those are my thoughts. Let's move on.